Please welcome Dave Alfaro.
Thank you so much, Shirley, and thank all of you for your time today. So going through and having a look at getting our presentation started here, wanted to first go over a little bit of safe harbor. We're not going to cover anything completely proprietary or overly sensitive in our presentation this morning. It's all pretty much public, and again, the webinar will be posted. If you do see anything in the slide decks that you feel would be helpful or you have more interest of, please reach out, contact us, and we'll work with you to get you what you need in order to to help. So a little bit about me and who I am. So again, my name is Dave Alfaro, and I'm the Managing Director for the ThreatZERO practice here at Cylance Blackberry. So that said, I've got a pretty extensive career in security. So I've been around for well over 18 years now, and my career kind of spans everything, all security disciplines from network engineering to firewalling to penetration testing to privilege identity management, endpoint protection, vulnerability management. I've done a whole lot of it, both as a consultant and a security practitioner. I've managed very, very large government and private sector implementations pretty much all around the world for vulnerability assessment and privilege identity management and endpoint protection. So been around and seen quite a bit and managed and grown quite a few very successful consulting practices around security tool implementation and really moving customers to a better state with technology. So that said, today, in preparing for this this webinar, I really started to think about time and wanted to discuss time, because time is really one of those truly finite and one of the most precious resources as humans that we have. So time can only, can only be spent once, and it can't really be replaced or renewed. And, really reflecting on time and what made me think of this, and again, in preparing for this webinar, the date came to me as being kind of special. And again, one of my greatest mentors, which was actually my grandfather, as a career military pilot and naval aviator, would have been his 99th birthday today. And really that just reflected on me as to how precious time really is and how important it is to get the most out of time. So that said, the challenge that I want to give to all of you is really to ask, how do you quantify your time? And how do you qualify the time for your resources and your partners and your customers? And really, how do you measure the value of that time spent? Right. Really from there, that's what I want to discuss today. And today we're going to explore kind of the value of how that time is spent and how it's used in our day-to-day security practices, and really how we implement solutions and run from there. So digging into that value of time, let's discuss that a little further in how we spend that. So how many organizations do you know of that have a spare security analyst or SOC analyst or security admin, or for that matter, any competent IT resource that's out there? I mean, I would imagine that has essentially an abundance of time on their hands. Chances are not going to be too many. So really, when we think about this, how often does this subject matter expertise or really things like shelfware come into play? the solutions, often are purchased with, the best of intentions, but, how often does something else come up during the implementation of even a piece of security software, or even at that, a piece of IT software? Right? How often does that software sit on the shelf, or how often is that software misconfigured? So again, in preparing for this webinar, doing a little homework into what's the true cost of not implementing something properly, or making decisions to get software put in place to solve an issue that really we never get around to, or we may not have the resources to properly put towards to properly configure it. So in looking at this and doing a little research, I actually came across an article. This is on CSO Online, and the article is on how to stop wasting money on security shelfware. And really what I came up with, and what was kind of a shocking statistic to me, is that we see 30% of all new security investments not being used, or were underutilized, or were not being used at all. So I mean, at that point, they're either underutilized and not tuned, or not properly implemented, or completely sitting on the shelf and not achieving that end result that we're after. So a case study in that, and really one that's that's kind of close to all of us in the security industry, that everyone knows about, let's talk about Target. So Target spent over $1 million on an anti-malware solution. $1 million they spent on this solution. Now, from there, what had happened was, they put it in place. It was widely distributed, and prior to the breach and the incident that we all know so much about that happened in 2013, if you look at the reports, Target and their stock actually saw Mimikatz come across the wire and were alerted. They saw that Black POS was being tested and basically eventually got spread into the environment. They saw this, they were alerted on it, but because this software was in a monitor-only mode, right, we all know the outcome of what happened there. So really, thinking about that outcome, and again, the value of that time, there has to be essentially a little bit of a better way, right, to utilize that time, to make sure that we're utilizing the investments that we're making, and again, putting towards not only the time, but the expertise to get them properly configured and properly tuned. So in kind of continuing that research and looking into, some data, the number of incidents and the amount of resources that we have to put towards dealing with these incidents is going up and up and up over time. So looking at our first graph here, of 2015, 2016, 2017, you'll see that the number of those reported breaches and incidents, right, keeps going up and up and up, right? 2018 stats are going to be far higher, right? Especially with with some of the newer malware and again that's out there. Certainly, this trend is certainly not going down by any means. And really, in the title of this slide, time is not on our side, right? The amount of resources that we need to put towards keeping up with this very disturbing trend is really the time and resources keeps going up. How do we deal with this? Right? How do we make an impact here? Right? So these trends, looking at the man hours per week that are being spent, based on the number of endpoints, and again, this stops at about 10,000 endpoints. Many, many, many larger organizations are spending double, triple, and quadruple this amount of man hours. And again, these man hours are not by any means low-level resources. these are very, very skilled humans that at the end of the day are very expensive. And again, their time is very precious. So how do we deal with this trend? Right? How do we address these dollars that are being spent and this resource consumption that's going up? Right? There has to be a bit of a better way. There has to be a way that we can deal with this to where we can minimize the amount of input or the amount of hours that we're putting towards this, and again, minimize the amount of breaches that are happening. Right? So really, in looking at that, the answers are, what if we took a different approach? What if there was a better way? What if a good portion of these events, and again, nothing's perfect, but what if a good portion of these events simply never happened? The answer is really prevention. This is how we get ahead of the, of these threats that are continuing to go up and up and up, that are costing us countless dollars, and again, stealing our precious resources. And going back to my initial thoughts around this presentation, time. What prevention does is give us back time. So speaking to, really a prevention approach, we go and a concept that, Cylance has introduced, for, since really our inception is being ahead of the attack, being able to prevent the attack from happening, or the malware from ever executing, right? And again, we do that by leveraging our AI technology and machine learning to really do an analysis before the attack ever executes. The most dangerous piece of code is that code that is executing, not necessarily the code that's lying in wait or in the network in transition or anything along those lines. It is right before that code executes, or when that code executes rather, is when the damage begins to happen. Right? The whole solution to these problems is being in a preventative state. So speaking to that and building on the lessons that we learned, and again, really, really hard lessons, and not to dig into them too much, but to really take and learn from the ill fate that Target came across. Right? We've now learned that simply deploying a preventative solution does not get us there. We really need to make sure that those solutions are not only the right solution put in place, but are properly tuned and configured, right? And really, that's the big difference between deployment and prevention. If we put solutions like Cylance Protect and Cylance Optics out onto devices and don't properly tune them, that same sort of scenario is liable to happen. That happened with Target. So, speaking to a bit of a case study, and really what this came down to is the value of our solutions and how we play it. And it's really best described in a story. So this is the story of a particular customer that we had. And that customer, had some very, very skilled resources. They had a bona fide malware expert on staff. And that expert was known to the industry. That expert could reverse malware on the fly. It was an incredibly talented individual, and he was also backed by quite a few very talented system engineers and even some talented antivirus folks that were on staff at this particular organization. They bought into to Cylance Protect and actually deployed it out into their environment. And 3 or 4 months into their implementation, we received a call from this particular company. And at that point, they were rather disheartened and not really in the best state, and told us, were very frank with us in saying that they just weren't seeing the value in our solution. They were definitely seeing that we were picking up a ton of malware, which is evident in their report card. We were also picking up a ton of potentially unwanted programs as well. And from there, although we were catching more threats than other solutions that they had, they still found themselves in really a detect and respond sort of function. So their bona fide malware expert was so busy chasing and undoing and responding to fairly sophisticated attacks that they really didn't have time to tune and leverage the tool. Now, they made a lot of great, decisions and actioned a lot of different threats based on what the tool was providing them, but they really never were leveraging and getting the full value of the solution because they never got to that preventative state. And that preventative state is really where the solution starts to shine. So based on this, this story, and when they went, we told this customer, listen, let us help you, right? Let us come in and help you make the difference and move from the, state of detect and respond that you're in. And again, keeping in mind, these guys were doing a great job as far as, handling the data that was being detected. However, they were just so busy and overwhelmed by everything that was coming in the day-to-day that they couldn't properly tune the tool. So what we're able to do is with, and these customers are on a subscription now, what we were able to do is in a few short weeks, come in and help them address the malware that they had, address the potentially unwanted programs, and really move them into an active blocking state. And that active blocking state is really where they realized the value of ThreatZERO, where we took them into, from that C grade where they were in that detect and respond mode, again, day-to-day fighting active infections and malware, and move them to a more proactive, stable state of prevention, to where, again, this malware engineer or this again, malware expert could then go and basically do research on, emerging threats and these sort of things, and their antivirus people could go start doing other things, and again, could just focus on maintenance versus being in that emergency detect and respond reactionary mode. And this is really the power and the outcome of ThreatZERO. It's a measurable outcome that, again, we get every one of our ThreatZERO customers to by measuring it with this particular, with this scorecard. So that said, and going through and looking at the different offerings that ThreatZERO has out there, and how we how we help our customers get to that preventative state, we cover it with what we call foundational ThreatZERO. And foundational ThreatZERO utilizes our platform and basically lays that foundation of prevention and lays that outcome of prevention. So we go in, we help our customers completely, implement the solution, get the solution tuned to where they are not in that detect and respond mode, to where they are in active blocking mode for execution prevention or protection, in blocking modes, against memory or fileless threats, controlling scripts and PowerShell and consoles and these sort of things. And then from there, moving them to that provable state of prevention. Now, moving over to the right here, you'll see subscription ThreatZERO, which is where we take that foundation of prevention, right, and then come back with our customers and help them get to that, come back with them and help them maintain that state of prevention. So foundational ThreatZERO delivers that preventative state. Subscription ThreatZERO not only delivers that preventative state, but helps keep customers in that preventative state. It almost upgrade proofs their environment, for lack of a better term. Now, we have a lot of very trusted and very skilled partner relationships. And again, Cylance has always been a partner-driven and a 100% channel-driven company. And from there, all of our transactions are done through partners. And really, we have a lot of great partners with a lot of great skills out there. And with those skilled security benches and consulting capabilities, we have now also allowed them to leverage the tools and methodologies and process that allows us to deliver that same outcome. So really, partner-delivered team of certified experts that delivers the same outcome as the Cylance consulting team. So again, this is a growing practice that we're leveraging, and again, leveraging a lot of the incredible talent that our partners have out there, and again, those relationships to allow them to deliver that same outcome that we do. Now, finally, within the ThreatZERO family of offerings, we have our resident experts, right? And our resident experts are pretty simply staff augmentation. So this is where we have customers who are in either very large or complex organizations that just don't have the staff to operationalize or really need that extra help for us to come in and essentially become part of their environment, become almost an employee, and function as Cylance expertise within their particular organizations. So, speaking to how ThreatZERO operates and looking at kind of a couple case studies and really some success stories of how ThreatZERO helps our customers get properly tuned and leverage prevention. So speaking to this particular customer, which was, it's one that it really highlights the value of ThreatZERO and the overall long-term outcome. And really that overall long-term outcome is an ecstatic customer that has very little churn, and again, has been a customer that is renewed since 2016. So this is a customer who's been realizing long-term prevention, and really they focus on other things, not day-to-day, not the minutia of detect and respond. So speaking to that, this particular organization has about 13,000 endpoints. They're again a mid-sized U.S. bank, and they are full protection throughout the bank. So everything from their ATMs to their servers to their mobile, not mobile devices, but their laptops and these sort of things, all of their workstations and server infrastructure is completely on Cylance Protect and is in a state of provable prevention. So speaking to that, 13,700 devices that are in fully full execution prevention, 13,700 realizing memory defense. So again, they realize some immunity from some of those, advanced POS attacks and things like that, memory scraping, stack pivots, these sort of things, fileless malware. Again, they're realizing this prevention, and even into some of the more advanced, PowerShell-based scripting tools and these sort of things, or scripting-based malware. We're actually able to provide that prevention for them, and from there, they are again realizing this protection since 2016. So really realizing that outcome, and again, not having to deal with that detect and respond mode. Further, speaking towards rapid development and rapid deployment here within the solution. This is really a great case study, and I love talking about this one. So this is a very, very large global consumer brands company. Everybody knows them. Everyone has at least one brand from this company in their house somewhere. So that said, when we're thinking to the number of, this had 120,000 endpoints that were globally. essentially globally spread. So when we're talking about full EMEA, full South America, U.S., and even into East Asia a bit, global touched every continent that we have out there for the most part. That said, 107,000 endpoints deployed, and really this is an incredibly motivated customer, and that customer really worked hand in hand with us to get through this. Again, over 100,000 endpoints in really just 7 short months, realizing full prevention, and even utilizing our optics tool, fully deployed and tuned. Now, again, this particular organization was highly motivated, and again, they were highly motivated because they had a bit of a scare. So we had a chief information security officer and an executive team that was very behind the implementation and the move to prevention. And again, the buy-in was organization-wide, which is important in really getting these organizations tuned. So speaking to this, 107,000 endpoints in that full execution prevention, 107,000 endpoints in full memory defense, and over 70,000 utilizing that script control blocking. So again, they had a few that are tuning in. And really, the great story with this one is this particular customer, because they are a customer that is in that subscription ThreatZERO, has increased. So these numbers have actually gone up and continue to go up as new endpoints come online, as new departments and things like that continue to evolve. This is really where the outcome of ThreatZERO and the outcome of the solution really starts to shine, because not only are they realizing that prevention, but they are moving forward on their own because they are well trained and they're well operationalized. And again, they see us every quarter, not only from a ThreatZERO perspective, but also from a technical account manager perspective. Now, the services organization that ThreatZERO is a part of actually also has, some other practice areas that are really, key to leveraging AI and the whole message, and really delivering some exceptional services in that same fashion as ThreatZERO. Now, ThreatZERO are really product-based services that we've learned a little bit about today. But speaking to some of the other practice areas, which are really unique within our environment, and again, wholly integrated together. So the ThreatZERO team works very, very closely with our incident containment and forensics team, our IoT team, our industrial controls team, strategic services, and even into our education department. So taking a quick review of those really strategic service offerings that we have, speaking to IoT and embedded. So really, with the merger with Blackberry, Cylance has become the biggest IoT AI-based security company in the world, right? So again, a lot of that our focus on things like vehicle, like medical devices, like really embedded technology that really touches all of our lives in so many ways. All of our cars and most of us have, Ring doorbells and Nest thermostats and these sort of things. So IoT is certainly here to stay as we speak to Alexa and, ask them to play music and basically read our calendars and things like that. IoT is fully embedded. And again, it's a big focus area for Blackberry Cylance and where we want to go. And again, we've always been on the cutting edge of that with our IoT embedded, our IoT practice. So moving into incident containment and forensics, and again, note I said incident containment and not incident response. Our approach to incident response and emergency breach sort of reaction is a bit different than those of our competitors, in that we utilize our suite, our components, so our essentially our tools, so Cylance Protect, and all the things that we've learned about within ThreatZERO today as part of our incident containment and forensics operations. So not only do we come in and basically find, the problem, right? The question we turn back to our customers is, do you want us to just come in to respond, or do you want us to basically find what's going on and prevent it from happening? Do you want response, or do you want containment? And 99.9% of our customers come back to us and say, we want that containment. And that's really what we offer. So we've got a great team of very, very seasoned, globally spread incident responders that are ready and willing and waiting, again, at a moment's notice. And I'm going to put up a number where they can all be reached. Red Team Services is another one, and again, penetration testing is something that is, that has become a bit of a commodity. But when we really think about red teaming and going that extra effort to really prove, can this be attacked, or is, thinking out of the box and kind of going, against the grain, this is really what our Red Team services do, and really the big differentiator between things like Red Team and things like penetration testing. So next level security assessment is really where we go with the red teaming. Now, some more specialized services that we offer are in and around industrial control systems. So industrial control systems are a very specialized environment, and lots of people like to think nuclear power plants and refineries and things like that. And we even kind of display a bit of that on our slide here. But when we think about industrial control systems, similar to IoT, it touches us every day. Every time you get in an elevator, every time you enjoy a controlled climate in a building or something along these lines, and every time we turn on a water faucet and clean potable water comes out of it, this is all touching us from an industrial control systems perspective. Now, given that this is all often critical infrastructure, a really different specialized approach needs to be taken to securing and consulting around these. And this is really what we offer within our solution, or within our practice. And what it comes down to with every one of these offerings that I'm going through is a very, very specialized group of people. Right? From there, strategic services are another offering that we have, and this is really a bit of a newer offering, and it really comes down to virtualized CISO, tabletop exercises. So really providing services to validate without having to go through the pain and the expense of an incident containment or an incident response, or basically, to respond to an incident, giving that practice and testing your processes and procedures on, are you ready for that? Further, with strategic services, we offer vCISO, which will, again, allow some of our customers that don't necessarily have a CISO, or again, are growing companies and these sort of things that don't have those highly skilled resources, and from there will allow us to come in and provide that insight and guidance that they would typically get from from having a staff like that. And finally, education, which is where ThreatZERO plays a pretty big role. But in education services, we again take a lot of these methodologies and practical function areas that we have, and again offer training in and around it, as well as training on our core products. So that said, and really last but not least, let us prove it to you. Right? Again, the ThreatZERO practice and really our solution as a whole is all around delivering prevention. Right? The ThreatZERO team is here and ready to help you move into that state of prevention, and most importantly, keep you there. Right? We want to get off of the detect and respond, and again, help you leverage these solutions in environments, you know, all over the world, and again, to every scale. So again, let us prove it to you. You can reach out to us at proservices@cylance.com. And from there, the number that's on the screen here, this 877 number, is our emergency incident response number. So hopefully you don't, but if you ever find yourself in a scenario where you or one of your business partners has an active incident or a breach, again, hopefully you don't. But again, we are here for you if you need. To learn more about ThreatZERO Services, you can certainly hit us at the link that we have here, which is kind of a high-level overview of that. Or you can certainly contact your trusted channel provider or account manager, and you can actually email me at the email address here, so dalfaro@cylance.com. So, you know, really in kind of summation for today, I wanted to turn around because, you know, we really focused on time and the value of that time. And I hope today that we've helped you understand some of our take on time and how not only can ThreatZERO, but some of our consulting services help maybe give you some of that time back. So with that said, and finally, I'd like to take just a moment to thank you for your time. Again, we realize that your time is precious. We realize that your time is very valuable, and we appreciate you spending that time with us today. Thank you very much.